Welcome to the country, where we do country things. And on today's video, I'm going to take a final walkthrough of the aquaponic system before I start my first flow with it. So I've redesigned a few things, changed a couple things, and I think I'm about ready to turn the water on and see how it's going to flow. So just give me a minute to get back over there, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so the aquaponic system is completed and I'm getting ready to do the first flow test here today. But what I wanted to do is just kind of do a walkthrough and show you guys the system just right before I get ready to flow it, and to kind of explain to you how everything has changed. I did make some changes from the last update, and I wanted to go through this real quick, show you the final system and how everything's going to flow, and then we're going to get ready to fire this thing up this afternoon. So first of all, you see all the buckets are in place. All the feeder lines to the buckets are ready to go. All the drains are plumbed in. And as far as the actual growing area, we're ready to receive flow. So the first major change that I made is I moved the fish tanks that I had on top of the sump tank. I actually moved one of those out, and I moved the other one back closer to where the biofilters are. I just didn't feel comfortable having that much weight up in the air over that 10-foot distance. So this sump tank is 4 feet by 10 feet by 4 feet. So it's 800 gallons of water. And then above it, those two fish tanks would have been another 400 gallons. That's 400 gallons of weight stacked up on top of this thing. And I was a little bit nervous about doing that. So I decided, instead of risking that thing collapsing, I disassembled the whole thing, and I eliminated one fish tank from the system and moved the other one away from being on top of the sump tank. So the total gallons at full capacity is going to be about 900 to 1,000 gallons for this whole system, because I probably won't have this 200 gallons completely full. This green tank here was actually going to be more of a swirl filter rather than a fish tank, even though it's going to have some fish in it. It's going to be designed to swirl and act as a filter to filter out the solids from the sump tank here. But it's only going to be about halfway full, so that's going to be about 100 gallons. So, and this is not going to be all the way full. So you're looking at conservatively 900 gallons at the running cycle. So the way I've got the pump set up right now is I have this bypass built in right here. So that 1-inch valve open is just circulating the water right in a circle, and it's not allowing anything to go to my swirl filter here. So in order to flow the system, all I have to do is shut that valve there, and then I have this valve here where I can adjust the flow that's going into this tank. So I've got complete control of how much water I'm sending to the filters over there, and that's important to have that capability so that I don't overflow my biofiltration. So from there, inside the fish tank, I have another overflow protection right here. This line here, there's a standpipe inside the fish tank that's a certain height, and whenever the water reaches up above that standpipe, it's going to come out and drain and go right back to the sump tank. So I have this fish tank at a certain level, but if for some reason something happens, something plugs up downstream or something, and this tank wants to overflow, I've got an overflow protection right here for my swirl filter. So after the water enters here, it's going to come out through a 1-inch bulkhead into this 4-inch line, and it's going to settle out all of the large solids into these two tubes. So this is just my solids filter right here, both of these. And then I got valves on the bottom where I can periodically drain the solids off of the system. So from there, from these two solids filters, it's going to go down and go into my two biofilters through these tubes right here. And the way I'm going to be able to adjust this is, you can see how I've got that pointed up at an angle. So I can lift this up or push it down to allow less or more water into this filter. And then the same thing with this filter here. So I want about the same amount of water going into each filter instead of just one getting more water than the other. So I'm going to adjust these to have about the same amount of flow. And then from there, these two filters here have an equalizing line in between them right here. So this is a 3/4 inch line that ties into what you see right here, these little 4-inch protectors that's keeping the gravel away from the feeder line so I don't plug up that line with gravel. Same thing here. So the fish or the filters here, the biofilters, are going to be equalized all the time. So the level of the water in these two filters is always going to be the same, no matter if I'm putting more water into this one or more water into that one. It can flow backwards or it can flow forwards, whichever it needs to do to maintain an equal level in these. So I do have this 1-inch drain plumbed into this filter here that I can build a overflow and run back to the sump tank if I feel that that's necessary. This is just a protection that I may need, I may not need. I haven't plumbed it up yet, but if I feel like it's an issue with potentially overflowing something right here, I can always add this drain back to the sump tank and have my overflow protection right here. So as far as the way I'm going to be feeding the buckets, there's a 1-inch line that's going to be dumping into this 4-inch header right here that's feeding all of the buckets. So this T here is where I'm going to have my overflow protection for my biofilters. So right in this T here is a 3/4 inch drain that goes down and goes back and goes into the sump tank over there. So if I have an issue here where I'm giving this more water than the header system can handle, instead of overflowing and coming out of this, it's going to be able to dump down this drain line here, and that'll give me the overflow protection that I need to make sure I don't overflow my header system. And that's where this drain line comes in. If I have an issue where I'm constantly filling this up and I have a level that's a little bit concerning right here, then I can slow down the amount of water coming out of the swirl filter to lessen the amount of water that's coming to here. So I do have a lot of protections built in, and that's important to kind of when you're designing these systems, to kind of understand how it's going to flow and build these protections in before you get started. That way, redundancy is a good thing when you're working on these systems, just because there's a lot of things that can happen. Things can plug up, or something may or may not flow the way you designed it. And until I turn this thing on and start flowing, I don't really know what's going to happen. So I don't want to be making a bunch of changes to the system after it's already built. If this drain is never used, or this drain is never used, then no big deal. But if I ever needed to add these drains later, you know, I would have to shut the system down, drain all the water, you know, do all this extra work after the fact. So I'd rather put in these safety valves or these safety nets before I start the system up. So from this line right here, all the water is going to go down this 4-inch line and start feeding the 3-inch lines for all the buckets. So I have a 4-inch down to a 3-inch reducer. So as long as I'm keeping this 4-inch line completely full of water, then I know these 3-inch lines are going to be completely full, and then I'm going to get all the water I need down to the 25th bucket down on the end, 40 feet down to the end. So that's the biggest concern right now, is whether I'm going to be able to have enough flow to fill up all 4 of these 3-inch lines to feed all of my buckets. So there's a little bit of a walkthrough of the system. It's really a simple system, a lot simpler than the one I had last year, and I'm pretty confident that's going to work the way I need it to. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to close that bypass and let the system start flowing, and work out any bugs that I may have in the system. And then when I get everything worked out and flowing like I need it to flow, then I'll bring you guys back and show you the complete system and any changes I may or may not have made at that point. So the next time you see the system, it should be flowing, and we should be getting ready to plant the tomato plants. It looks like about the 12th of March or so, something like that, next week when the weather starts warming up. So anyway, there's a walkthrough of the system. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and I'll be back.